the home stretch, incumbent President Yoweri Museveni aims to extend his legacy beyond 30 years. A week ago, the president skipped the presidential debate to address rallies in the Ankole sub-region. However, he faces a monumental challenge against his actual allies, former Prime Minister Mama Mbabazi and Dr. Kizza Besigye, to win in the first round. On the spotlight is a long-term confidant of the president, Professor Tarsis Kabwegyere, who is General Duties Minister, Office of the Prime Minister. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you.
Since we are still in January, I should say Happy New Year, Professor.
Very well. And you too, Happy New Year.
Thank you. Professor, you are not meeting the people in your constituency asking for votes. It must be, you know, quite relieving to know that you are not
this is not
combing the areas looking for votes.
This is not the first time. So,
I know.
Yeah, so no problem.
Let me look into the presidential campaign. You told the Observer newspaper on the October 10th, 2014, that the president needs to retire and hand over power to a new one.
Well, you're assuming that they are right in what you are quoting, but there's nothing wrong with that. A president occupies an office and he can't be president forever. So that time will come, definitely. Whether one likes it or not, it will come.
Do you get a sense of frustration that the desire and the wish that you had, you don't see it happen now?
No. Did I put a time limit?
You see, you were quoted saying that he needs to retire and hand over power to a new one.
You know, you are assuming that that is a correct quote. You know, very frequently, we have suffered from newspapers. They put the words in your mouth as they wish. But be it as it may.
So this is not a desire that you share?
It's not a desire. Look, you are here, for example, you're in this program. I'm sure there will be another person who will carry out this program.
Just like they have been.
Yes.
Definitely they will.
Yeah, so there is nothing new. There's nothing strange. I don't think there is anything that is implied in that I have a desire. I haven't changed my mind. It's just like when Right Honorable Mbabazi was handing over to Ndugurugunda, I said something about witnessing a handover, and people read into it the way what they wanted.
Exactly, which again tells us about your mind, that you are a gentleman who is inclined to think that there should be a transition of power from one president to another.
I am
because you repeated it on October 6th when Prime Minister Mama Mbabazi was handing over Dr. Rugunda.
Yeah, you know, I am a political sociologist.
Yes, you are.
There is what we call rites of passage. Okay? You pass in time, and that's not anything surprising. All right? Offices are occupied, and the time comes when people leave those offices. Either life comes to an end, or they leave as time comes and they go to other business. It's not a surprise that therefore that I could welcome an occasion when Mbabazi was handing over to Rugunda, and to people, two friends who have known each other for a long time, and I have known both. So I said I am happy to be on the occasion when these two are handing over to each other. And I remember saying...
And you go further than that?
No, I remember saying this to Mbabazi, that I hope that this ship you have handed over to your friend, you are not going to capsize the ship. I remember saying that to him as well. Okay? So, equally, when we go to elections like we are going to elections now, and we have had elections, it is expected that one person wins. All right? In my case, I want President Museveni to win. But if it so happened that he didn't win, which is not likely, which doesn't seem likely.
That's a big if for you.
Yeah, a big if. If it so happened that the elections went and somebody else was to receive the instrument of power, I would be happy to witness the occasion. In fact, in my own book, I quote a case of a president, Yoweri Museveni, handing over to himself, meaning a time came when he was not in office and the election took place and he won and he was the same person receiving the instruments of power. That has happened, as you know.
Has that been happening quite often?
Yes, but it's not an illegitimate event. It's not a surprise. People make a choice and they say, we value you and we give you power. You know, people viewing or people reading things in Uganda should know that the 30 years we have had are different from the previous 30 years. These 30 years we have had make a difference, including this very television station you are in. You know, people tend to take things for granted.
Now, you have served this country well, and you are a senior citizen, and you have known the president for quite some time, since I'm told in the 70s or even beyond, before that.
We were in school together.
Yes, but
yes.
have you ever shared, for the benefit of Uganda, for the sake of this country, shared with him the element, the question of transition from himself to another?
Why would that be on my agenda? Because
that's a no-go area for you?
No. The program, the constitution exists.
It does.
Elections every 5 years. We have established that. Now, so I sit down now and romanticize about when he's leaving or what. I'm supporting him. I'm campaigning for him. I'm looking forward to his swearing in again. Because this country has valued him.
He has served this country.
Yes.
And he has done a good job.
Yes.
But don't you realize that he would even be a much better job if he sees this country being, led by another person, and he's also watching and giving advice?
Well,
as he continues more, doesn't he lose an opportunity to see that happen?
There are 8 people in the running. Mm-hmm. Ugandans are looking at them. They are listening to them. They are evaluating the programs each is mentioning as the program for the country. They are making their choice. All right? And the readings are that Yoweri Museveni still has a contribution to make. And it's not me as an individual now to determine what Ugandans want, especially when I'm also interested in seeing him win again, because I have looked at all these candidates and I have put them on a mizan, if you want to use the expression, and I don't see him anyone heavier than him. So why shouldn't I tell Ugandans, please, let's continue? The issue of 30 years, is it an accident? Has these 30 years, have we witnessed a fundamental change? Have we seen a difference in the lives of our people? And the answer is yes. Now, who am I then to say, please stand out and don't continue?
So in your view, in the last 3 decades of the NRM regime, what stands out as a success story, and where could this government have done better?
Well, first of all, those of us who were old enough to know how we were ruled by the colonialists, okay? Quite a bit of my life is covered in the period before independence, before 1962. And you compare what I experienced then, and I was not too young to appreciate, and you compare that with the period since 62, from 62 to 1986, and I have been a participant. I have studied Uganda, I've written some things on Uganda, and I have seen if I can evaluate and say what difference has been made in the 30 years that NRM has been in power. I ran into exile, okay, in 1973. But before that, I saw a coup take place in 1971. And before that, I saw a constitution being amended. And I happened to have had that opportunity to interview late Grace Kabwegyere, who was the minister in charge of the constitution then as the Attorney General, Minister of Constitutional Affairs. How the constitution was amended in 1963 to create a position of president and then vice president, and the Kabwegyere becoming president, and Nadio becoming vice president. I followed all that. And the conflict in 64, and the suspension of the constitution, and the new constitution in 67. I was old enough already watching all this. And Amin comes in, and we remove Amin. And we have those presidents, the rule is 68 days. And he's removed, and Benaisa comes in, and we have 3 presidents. And not too many people know those 3 presidents. His Excellency Wacho Roar, His Excellency Musoke, His Excellency Nyamchoncho. 3 presidents, nobody knows about them. I have seen all those. And I have seen Obote overthrown in 71 and overthrown again in 85. I have seen him come in 86. I mean in 80. So and I participated in all this.
You're telling us the tumultuous days of Uganda.
Yes.
So what does that mean?
Now I'm giving you.
We know about the history. We've seen
no,
all that.
not too many know this.
Yeah.
Not too many know this.
So
when you are talking about the young people, you know, you are talking people who are 40 years now. They were 10 in 86. All right. And you know, it's obviously at 10. How much do you know? Now, I think it is the duty of us who know to enable people who don't know to know, so that they can make correct evaluations. This question of, I want change change for what? We have now 8 candidates. Now, there is a lady, we can change the lady and see how the country will run, okay? We can change it to any of them. There is a professor.
What's wrong with the lady?
No, there's nothing wrong with the lady. But there is a country to run. It's not the same thing as the wish to be a president. Why did it so happen that in all those, in the period from 62, 61 actually, because Chiwanaka is not excluded. How come that we had so many of those? And in these last 30 years, we have a continuous leadership. Is it an accident? Or has it just happened?
So in your view, the discussion should be where we have come from or where we ought to be? Where we ought to be, it should be the discussion. Many Ugandans now, their debate is where we ought to be, not where we have come from.
Yes, but you can't know where you ought to be if you don't know where you are and why you are where you are. It's not a dream. We are talking of lives. We are talking of a society. We are talking of buildings. You know, you look at buildings. We are talking of infrastructure. We are talking of people learning and living.
So for you, the biggest success story is for having been able, as an Arab government, to retain power for 30 years.
Anybody watching this program, I want to say the following. Take any sector, the education sector. See what we had before 86, from independence to 86. See, compare that period with the period we have had since 86. You'll see tremendous difference. One university, Makerere, and now how many universities do we have? Okay? Secondary schools, primary schools, name it. And it's not a question of accumulation, but it's a question of quality as well. Take security. Take freedom. We are talking of 8 candidates now running for president. Do you think pre-86 would you have had this kind of experience? Would you have had a former prime minister challenging his boss, quote unquote boss, of course he's a citizen. Now they are on the same trail and running around the whole country. Do you think this is okay? It's simple. It has just happened. So freedom is here. Freedom, you wouldn't do this. I stood in 1980. I don't think I want to go back to 1980.
But the people who are
continue.
Continue.
Look at the economy. Look at the economy. Really, do you think the Uganda economy is the same? Or have we just been on a snail speed? This economy is transformed. This country is moving very, very fast. And there are people who don't know this, who don't realize this. They think it is, everything is as usual. Or Uganda is moving in the same way as other countries. No. We are moving very, very fast. The economy is transforming. There's more participation. Although, of course, we are still 11% of our population is still is only 11% in the formal sector. But that is, this morning I was at a meeting in former Rancho on the Lake, where African representation for the whole continent were there discussing how to transform our economy. This is not unique to Uganda. Many parts of Africa, many countries are still transformed.
11% of our population in formal kind of employment. And is that a success story?
Well, but no, the question is, why are we there?
How many, percentage-wise, of the population of your country are contributing how much to the GDP?
No. Is this a creation of NRM? In fact, even...
Professor, we have more than 80% of our population engaged in agriculture. How much is agriculture contributing to GDP?
Yes.
So if you have the biggest percentage of population contributing less, but what kind of development is that?
No, you see, I want you to ask any of the candidates whether he can wake up in the morning or she can wake up in the morning, since we have also a lady, and say, I have changed the economy. We discovered, we knew there was oil in this ground. It has taken us time to get it out.
We have not yet gotten it out, and we may not, by the way.
We have had a river Nile. We have had a river Nile since God created this. And you read in the Bible of the Nile, we only had one dam, built in 54. Now, we are trying to do, how many are we building up? Okay? So, when you say a transformation, it's beyond a wish. Certain things have to be replaced. You have to have efforts put in, you have to have investment, you have to have time invested, and to get the results. So, when you look at efforts that have been made consistently now in the last 30 years, you'll see that there is a qualitative difference, partly because of a visionary leadership, secondly because of continuity. People who want change. We had change in the UNF days. But
do you also realize that this country had public and government institutions that were robust and running? You had the Uganda Airlines, you had the railways, you had the cooperatives, you had all these things, and they are no more.
Yes.
In fact, you're thinking now of bringing them back. I hear some suggestions.
Where?
But they died in the last 30 years.
Yes, but why did they die? Do you think they were strangled by NRM? Dinosaurs died, and we can lament about them. We are now, actually, to tell you the truth, we are now preparing to evaluate even our own current parastate roles. Do they justify the existence? Okay? We are going to sit down and say, look, you were founded on the basis of ABCD, the following objectives, have we lived up to them? Okay? So, some of those didn't justify the existence anymore, But in any case, when you are transforming, there are things which, if you are plowing the ground, there are certain stumps that you remove in order to get the ground ready for new seeds. So there are a number of changes that had to be made. But by the way, also remember that we responded to pressures from outside, IMF, World Bank. You know, when you are weak, you tend to be subjected to all sorts of pressures. Okay, we are now gradually picking strength. We are making decisions. We are doing our roads, not all of them yet, but we are doing them. We have our energy fund. You know, we are moving on. There are things we are now doing because we have a capacity built up. And that capacity has come up because of consistency, because of vision, because of...
You talk about that capacity, but many don't see it in the public health system. When you visit some of the hospitals, in fact, even the candidates were stopped from visiting them because the expose that came from ABIM showed you what is happening.
But what explains the rise in life expectancy from where it was in the 30s, 40 years, now to about 58? What explains that? You think we are losing more people? You think life expectancy is not a good measure? Why has the population increased so tremendously? You think
statistics will show you that today, every day, Uganda is losing 19 mothers dying due to pregnancy-related complications.
You think in years before we didn't lose more than that? You think this is a higher rate than ever before?
In fact, it has moved from 16 in the last 4 years to 19. So
Well,
it's increasing.
Well, you know, statistics can also deceive you, but in relation to the population, you think this is a bigger number or a smaller number?
I think that our mothers should not be dying while giving a life.
Yes, nobody should die, and there are people who, you know, where are you on the development scale? We are already saying...
We are a highly indebted poor country.
Yes.
We were a highly indebted poor country 30 years ago. We still are. That's where we are, sir.
Yes, but how do you move from poverty to wealth? Is it a wish? Do you do it in 30 years? You think these developed countries became rich in 30 years? Did they plunder other countries in order to be rich? Now, which country are we plundering?
Singapore did it, sir. In 30 years, they transformed the economy.
In Singapore, how many Singapores do you have? I have just met a delegation from there, and we are going to link with them on how to organize. They are organized.
And at one time, we were at par.
Yes, yes, but I visited Malaysia in '75. Okay, they were extracting rubber, that sap, and exporting it raw. They had started irrigation, the first irrigation scheme they had on the Muda River. They were doing it at that time, and were with the World Bank fund, and they were growing one crop. They used to grow one crop a year, because during the floods, now they had 2 crops, and they were going to 3 crops. So changes do occur, and if you check on successes like Singapore, changes like successes like in Malaysia, you don't think that you are changing leaders every other day.
So now, if these other countries have managed to change their economies in 30 years, tremendous change.
30 years? No.
So, yes.
No, a little more.
In 75,
yes, 75.
you saw them struggling. So they started in the 80s
yes.
to work on the economy, and now they have changed.
Yes.
What have been, apart from the tumultuous 80, from 86
yes,
to now, what has been our biggest problem? Why can't we at least be half? Because if you found this country HIPIC, highly indebted poor country, and we're still HIPIC, why?
Yes, I want you now to visualize a biological body. Somebody injured on a road accident, limbs broken, and you rush that person to hospital, you transfuse, you repair the bones, and you want that person to run a marathon. It needs to take time before that person can do it. If you check, in 77, the Ugandan economy collapsed. There is, at that time, they did a 3-year development plan. If you read it, it is an acknowledgement.
Those are historical facts.
No, but wait, but if you don't have yesterday, you can't understand what is today. Okay? By 77, the Ugandan economy had come to standstill and regressed, and actually regressed. By the leadership, you remember when Amin promoted permanent secretary to ministers, and the people below became, the civil service collapsed. All right? Now, if you think
so
you can...
our problem is 1977. Is that our problem?
It is not 1977. In fact, it is many more years.
It is,
go back for...
It is still the Amin era. That
No. Even the colonial effects
when the man is
are
gone
with you.
More than 30 years.
The colonial effects are with you. Our colonial wars, tribal wars, are still with you. The weaknesses. I give you an example. Very frankly, anthropologically speaking, if you look at our Busoga, the nature, the social structure of the different groups, which are not integrated into one solid, like a kingdom. So you have tribal clan groups, the Bisi Ngobi, the Bisi Gaga, and so on and so forth. That can explain to you what goes on now on how to agree on or not agree on having a Chabazinga and so on. If you don't study properly the nature of society, you can't understand what is going on. So today, we are poor, not because Museveni came in the government and he introduced poverty here. If you don't understand what is going on you want to say the social structure of Busoga is responsible for the poverty in Busoga?
Well, the poverty in Busoga is poverty everywhere. The story of Busoga is the story of Toro. It's the story of Acholi. It's the story of where you come from.
Okay.
We're not any different.
No, you can go on like that. But I think if you are a serious student of society, you will see differences. Certainly, cattle rustling in Karamoja was not the one who didn't have the same thing in Ankole. I didn't wake up today and find your cows, they are mine, which was the case in Karamoja. So certain practices, certain traditions do explain the pace at which development takes place. So you had to go in Karamoja and take certain actions, right? Because of the history. Genital mutilation, is still going on. It is affecting children in those areas. Go to Amadat. Girls drop out of school 87%. You don't get the same thing in Bushenyi, that the girls are frightened out of school because of mutilation. So there are things which you need to study. You don't take it for granted that Uganda is the same, You see, there are things which you need to study properly. It's just like somebody who has AIDS cannot behave in the same way as somebody who hasn't. So you need to do the anatomy and physiology of development.
Professor Kabwegyere, we're going to take a break and we'll come back to continue that discussion. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara. My guest tonight is Professor Tarsis Kabwegyere. If all goes well and the president is re-elected, and for you have said, well, you really think he's going to be, or even the opinion polls done by this station give him 51, and by the New Vision 71. So by all indications, he's going to be re-elected.
Yes.
Do you think this is going to be his last term?
Well, he has said so, I think. And in any case...
Do you believe him?
Well, but look, why not?
But there's a history of changings.
First of all, I don't believe that what I hear or read in the newspapers, that he promised some individuals as if he was to bequeath them with the leadership of Uganda. I don't believe them. Because some of those who say those things are also, they should be questioned whether they were chosen to be the successors. But let's face it.
Would you want this to be the last? Professor Tarsis Kabwegyere, you are a senior citizen.
Patrick,
would you want this to be the last if he wins?
Patrick, there is a constitution which has put an age limit of 75. By the time this term ends, he will be more than 75.
There was a constitution when we had term limits.
But listen,
Professor Kabwegyere,
okay,
don't forget that.
No, but let me tell you this. This is my hunch. And I'm not Uganda. And I'm not the next parliament.
What is your hunch?
My hunch is that beyond 75, for Yoweri Kaguta Museveni to push it that he wants an amendment of the constitution to continue, it will be more difficult than has been the case before. Okay? So I don't think, given what I think I know of him, that he would want to push something that doesn't succeed. Okay? Yoweri Museveni goes in for something that succeeds, and he really tries his level best to succeed. Give it to him, whether you like it or not, he puts in his best. All right? I don't think it will be a worthwhile effort beyond 75 to push for an amendment of a constitution for him to continue beyond 75. If he does that and can have audience, and Ugandans can still say, go on, I have no problem myself. All right? Because the issue is not even age. There are people who have said, Kabwegyere, I'm too old. They even think I'm as old as the hills. You know? And I laugh.
The hills of Uwejo.
Yes. There is one particular fellow who said, why are you still here? And I said, pray to God that perhaps you die before you are my age if you think I'm useless. The issue is not your age. The issue is how valuable you are to yourself and to your country. There are people who have made contributions in science in their 90s. Right? People who have made contributions when they were young. And if we take Jesus Christ as a human being, which he was, 33 he had made an impact and is still remembered. All right? And there are many others who did that when they are young. But there are also others who did it in their 70s, in their 80s. So to me, age is an index. All right? The issue is what you do with that energy, with that age. You can't be born today and become a headmaster of a school. All right? We cannot take you to a nursery and make you the headmistress or the headmaster of a nursery school. So there is a difference that must be made from your birth to your public responsibility. There is a certain amount of knowledge you must have to know how to drive. A 3-year-old kid still driving a Mercedes-Benz would be unusual, okay? And you would not be sure whether that person has competence. So, let's face it, there is a certain amount of knowledge you need to teach others, okay? To be able to learn, and to learn certain things. So, to me, the issue of age is not the issue. The issue of having been in power. Amin was in power for 8 years, okay? And those 8 years for me looks like 8 centuries, okay? So the issue is, you are doing a good job? Am I feeling the weight of Museveni being on top of me? No. Instead, he's making things lighter for me.
He told this program
Yes.
in 2012, when I was interviewing him, and he said, really, beyond 75 as a human being, I don't think you still have it in you, so that he's not going to be party to those who will be calling for the removal of the age limit from the Constitution. At least that's what he said.
Right.
But I only ask this because I have seen before that the Constitution has ever been amended.
Yes, but it's
so
not
this could
every
happen
day.
again.
It's not every day.
Well,
and in America's life expectancy is growing, is continuing.
But if anything, he's within the constitutional mandate now to lead the country before he's even 75.
Right.
We have callers who would want to ask questions or even comment, but before we take these calls, it's barely 3 weeks to the polls. How do you think your candidate will perform?
Very well. I certainly wish him to perform very well, but I'm also looking at the signs. They are good. They are really good. I don't think I'm worried at all. I believe in the remaining days, we have got to do some finishing touches, and I hope this program contributes to that. That there is a certain amount, there is a lot of confidence in and trust in Museveni, in the system he has built in the country, not alone, with all of us. And there is confidence in tomorrow. People are hopeful. People think, even those who are saying we are young, we are this, they see they cannot, of all these candidates, they see who is what. For example, how would you have an independent president run a country? The papers showed the other day that not all these parties have fielded even candidates for members of parliament in every constituency. They don't have enough who would help form a government. How would you, to be specific, how would you, as an independent candidate, let's take for the sake of it, Professor Variamreva, that he wins a presidency and then has parliament and he forms the government. Some of us look at some of these things as mere shows. You want to be on record, but certainly you wouldn't deliver.
Many people were disappointed that the incumbent candidate, did not turn up for the presidential debate.
We were with him in Bushenyi and we needed him there. And I think he was talking to all of us. Those of us who watched that program, because after the rally in Ishaka, I went to and watched the program. I think, frankly speaking, he had a bit more to do than participate in that program. It's okay, it's all right, and I have seen a lot of writing about it, how it helped them to see, they evaluate. For example, the one who won, according to my son was telling me, the one who did.
Really?
Beraro did very well.
General Beraro did well, but
yes.
Isn't that where the future of our democracy and politics is headed? If he doesn't want to be part of where we want to be, doesn't he take away from Ugandans that opportunity?
Well,
because clearly that looks like the future.
No, but he's swimming.
Why doesn't he want to be part of the future?
He's swimming in a bigger lake, going to all these rallies, talking to people in their different
Professor, the presidential debate was at night. The rallies close at 6.
Yes, but it's just like now, this program. I don't know how many Ugandans are watching this program now. But be it as it may, it is a choice. You make a decision, all right? You don't have to go and address all these rallies. Mm-hmm. Sometimes these people, sometimes he addresses 3-4 rallies in a day. Others do one in 2 days, and so on. It's a choice. He made a choice. He calculated. I don't think he lost votes because of not appearing on that program.
Let us involve Ugandans who maybe have their questions and comments that they want to make tonight. I'll open the line so that I take the very first call online. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Good evening, Patrick, and good evening, Professor.
Mm-hmm. Good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Yes, my name is Julius.
Yes, Julius.
And I'm calling from Naguru.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Patrick, with all due respect, I think when Professor tries to put a discussion in context, you should pay some attention as a serious moderator because you are discussing serious business. And when you utter words like for us or we are looking at the future and not the past, you have to put it in context. Let's exercise some seriousness in this level of debate. When you just say we are looking at the future, you have to qualify. The future does not start with out of context. So when the future, you asked him about the achievements of NRM, and he's just told you the past. First of all, a level of stability. He has told you about the economics. He told you about 77, the economic crisis the country was facing. What so far has been done might not be sufficient. But this fixation about it is this generation, it is the future without qualifying it, is not helpful at all, especially to the young people who have no context about the discussion. So let's have some seriousness in moderation. Thank you.
Thank you. So you believe it is not important for all the presidential candidates to appear on the same platform and debate? That is...
No, it's not a question of not important.
Yeah.
No, if he
and that's not where we should be headed.
No, he missed the program. That is the choice he made.
Okay.
All right.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's take another caller. Hello.
Yes. Good evening, Patrick. How are you?
Good evening. How are you, sir? What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm very fine. Well, I'm called Nyembi Richard Vimaro.
Yes.
Calling in from the ends of Miyenga, and my greetings to Professor Tarsis Kabwegyere.
Good evening.
Yeah, first of all, Professor, I've been a staunch NRM supporter, a cadre, a senior mobilizer, and a communications coordinator. But I'm perturbed by the fact that people like you, a whole professor, have failed to convince our president, our beloved president, that there is a time when change has to come. Change is always inevitable. Okay, he fought for the liberation of this country. We appreciate it very much. He has done some tremendous changes to this country. That's very good. We have had leaders who have liberated their countries, fought for independence, but at the time they relinquished power peacefully. Professor, after 30 years of President Museveni, sincerely speaking, he is in his mid-70s. Why is he coming? Why is he coming back? What is he going to make? What is he going to bring to Uganda that hasn't yet been achieved in 30 years? By saying, Professor, by supporting President Museveni, you are saying that there is no any other eligible person to lead Uganda.
Okay.
No.
Okay. You have made your point, sir. You have made your point, sir. Our professor is going to respond.
Yes.
Is going to respond to you shortly. But let me take some 2 or 3 more calls so that he can respond to you at once, all of you. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm Okama Simon Kuda, calling from Tororo.
Your name? You're calling from Tororo. I didn't get your name, sir.
Simon Okama.
Simon Tororo, go on air.
Yeah, one is that I want just to tell us, tell Ugandans how many more years does really the president Museveni require to transform this economy.
Okay, you've been very precise with your question.
Then secondly, we have had countries like Kenya, Tanzania, that have changed presidents for quite a number of years. At the same time, these countries are still very peaceful, and their economies are growing so.
They are. Okay.
And the other one is also the issue of corruption, whereby billions of shillings have been embezzled, but that money, it was used into proper use. Then that means really the economy would, a number of things would have really been done. So those are really issues that he should be able to do to tell Ugandans clearly.
Thank you.
How they're really planning to fight issues of corruption.
Thank you, Simon in Tororo. Let me take 2 more calls. Hello? 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 Okay, let me take another caller. That one is trying to listen to himself as well. Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Good evening, ma'am. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Bora. I'm
Bora.
calling from Kitende.
Bora in Kitende, you're on air.
Yes.
Bora, you're on air. Just go right ahead and talk. Don't listen to yourself, ma'am. Oh, no. Okay. Let me take another caller. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm Robert Emetu from Entebbe.
Entebbe, you're on air.
Yes, I appreciate the topic. But listening to a professor speak, it makes me understand why the president is failing to make decisions that majority want.
Why?
I mean, he is saying that the president should not be changed. Instead of helping the president, think of him now, very peacefully. Two, isn't it the same gentleman who had certain queries about bicycles or something that disappeared mysteriously? The professor.
The bicycles? What bicycles?
Okay. He will respond to you. So let me just take one more. Hello. Hello?
Hello.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Yeah, this is Bob in Tinda.
Bobby in Tinda, you're on air, sir.
Yes, I'm concerned about the 28% that was allocated to people who have TVs. And I'm wondering why,
Who have what?
when it comes to the New Year's address, the State of the Nation address, the president uses the mass media, the TV.
And radio as well.
When it comes to the debate, even UTV, which has a wider reach, is switched off.
Okay. All right. Maybe let Professor Tarsis Kabwegyere to respond
Well,
to your comments and questions.
Yeah, first of all, is Museveni a problem? You know, I get this impression.
Was that the question?
Yeah, you know.
I didn't hear that question.
No, yes, yeah, no.
Because you have paraphrased it.
No, we should advise him not to stand. You should let other people come in. You know, because I put it in simple terms. Is Museveni a problem? Museveni is not a problem. Museveni has been helping us solve problems. People should know what a leader is. What is a leader? All right? We are now talking about Museveni. And somebody talks, the majority are not with this. Who are these majority when the majority have been voting Museveni in? Even when you look at the time of the Bush War, the guerrilla struggle, if Museveni was not the leader that he is, to go into the bush and in a period of 5 years, transform young people, transform support, build support for him to finally take over in 86. That's the leader. That's the leader. Leader, let's all of you watching me and listening to this program, find out what a leader is. Who is the leader? Now, this is not a person who just imposes himself. Even when you look at the causes of revolution, was this, you go to 1980, and he said it before, that because we were here, and he says, if the elections don't go right, because we have been struggling to get Uganda transformed, if elections don't help us transform, we are going to use other means. And he goes and he implements that statement of his, and he comes back in 86, takes over government, and for 30 years does what he has done. Now somebody says, you should walk away. You have overstayed. Now there are 8 candidates. And this is not the first time. There was a time when Semogere was a candidate. All right? There was a time when you had Bwenje, you had all these others. We have had these. Besigye has been a candidate. Now we have Mbabazi as a candidate. There are others who are there, you know, Bwanika and all these others. Bidan Sari was a candidate. Name them. All right? Obote was a candidate. Mary Obote. Now, but Ugandans choose him. Now you say he should, Kabwegyere should ask him.
You know, at different occasions, the election results have been contested, even in court.
Yes, but you know, somebody is contesting.
And you know the pronouncement of the courts.
Yes, but let me tell you, somebody is already contesting, for example, that Kabwegyere is too old to think. So even when something is obvious, it can be contested. Contestation is a part and parcel of human society. And if you ask me as a sociologist, I will tell you, there will always be conflict in society. The challenge is leaders manage it.
Okay, next to the next.
Now, corruption. All right? Corruption. You know, if I had time, I would really go into this whole question of corruption and see whether it is created by leaders or it is a character of the economy, the type of economy you have. Okay? Because corruption, if I were to speak to my best, corruption is endemic in a money economy. It's only its management. And its management has to do with...
Leadership, doesn't it?
No, it has to do with the market forces. The market forces which determine the flow of investments, not individuals. Don't think that America, the investment in America is determined by Obama, or that in Germany, that lady is the one who determines this and that. There are forces which operate in a money economy. Study capitalism, and you will see that there are things which happen.
So it's our failure to build the systems and forces that
it's
can
not
operate.
failure. We are building the system, but it takes time to build these systems. Anybody who says Kabwegyere wakes up in the morning and is a professor is a joke. There is a time it takes to build a system. 30 years is too small a period of time. Anybody who thinks that 30 years, go back 300 years, go back 3,000 years, go back 20,000 years, go back 3 million years, and you'll see that time is necessary for certain things to exist. You are physically looking this, Patrick, you are a product of many, many millions of years. So social systems also take time. I wish I had time to tell people that to build a system that works. Look at any of these countries. Magna Carta, 1215, was it? Go on, 1732, the Land Act in Britain. We don't have a Land Act yet in a part of our countries here. People have no land titles. How can they be part of an economy? Then you say, oh yeah, you are fighting poverty. How can you fight poverty when you have no tools? When the man-land relationship is not developed? When you cannot produce with the land?
So our land law is not...
It's not just a land law. There is a lot that must be invested. Education is one. Okay? You need a knowledge base. You need to build. You know, this decision, one of the fundamental decisions that have been made by this government is to declare universal education. Japan, by 1900, had already universal education. Now we are contemporaries. It makes a difference.
We are not contemporaries.
Yes, we are contemporaries. Today is the 20th, is it 21st? Today, for Uganda and for Japan, we are together. But we are not equal. So there is a lot that needs to be done. A system that regenerates itself. Continuity. People must know what they are doing for the society.
Okay, I think you have 2 more other questions, so that if you respond to them as well.
Let me, for example, just fighting poverty. Mm-hmm. Do you know how much money we spend on funerals, in graduation ceremonies, even for people who have graduated and don't yet have jobs? The amount of resources we spend, we consume, compared to what others do, which are...
Whose job is it to change the character, the behavior of a nation?
It is the leaders.
Yes.
But they don't...
Why don't they do it?
But they don't wake up in the morning. Patrick, take it up if you think it is easy. And change society. It takes a lot of doing. You do this today, you tell people it is good for them to immunize the children, and they refuse to take children. You say universal education is around here, they want you to feed the children, they want you to dress them.
Then you concede defeat that have failed in this.
No, you don't. Leaders who accept defeat are not quite those who give impact on society. You try and you continue, you become resilient. One quality you want to associate with Museveni is resilient. You turn him on this one.
Professor, touch on the other questions.
Now, what other question was there? The majority, that I help the president to change, not to stand. I help him. Now he spoke. I'm sure there are a number of people who have heard. So if he's convincing, let him help the president to change. But for us, there are those of us who are saying, please continue. Not because we think you cannot come to an end at some point, because that will come. But that in the circumstances, given freedom of standing, 8 people nominated themselves, got themselves nominated. And we are looking at all of those 8 for the president. Okay. If we have those 8, I certainly have no choice. And I would say, those of you viewing the program, the choice is Museveni.
Thank you very much.
I don't see what
our time is out now. Let me ask you just to give us your parting shot tonight. You have been very passionate about your NRM party and, of course, your candidate.
One thing I am proud of is that I have seen change occur. And those of us who suffered the leadership that we have had in the past, I can stand like I did, I lose, and I get home. In 1980, I had to run and hide in Chitabi Seminary and hide. Thank God, Bishop Barnabas, may his soul rest in peace, I had to go and hide in his home, in his parish, in Kabare, running away. I had to, from there, to come to Nyamitanga, Bishop Kakubi, before I could come here and pleading. I don't want to have that happen. Let's have elections which are free and fair. Let people lose. Even some of us, when we lose, I can tell you, Patrick, I hope we'll not have primaries of this kind again. I certainly will. I don't think I would recommend. I certainly will put myself on the front line not to have primaries of this kind again. All right? There are things which cannot be given credit for what they are when they don't serve. Otherwise, frankly speaking, for me, I am hopeful. We should have elections, and those who are threatening with doom, let them doom themselves, leave the country alone. Those who are expecting that if you don't win, the world should stop, please. This country is here for centuries and centuries to come. Let's do a bit and bequeath Ugandan peace, and let peace be stable, and let us develop. Thank God that we have this opportunity, and I'm glad you invited me for tonight. Certainly, I believe we deserve goodwill, and NRM has done a good job, and anybody who wants to compete with us should accept that goodness is achieved through hard work.
Thank you very much. Professor Tarsis Kabwegyere is very passionate about the NRM government, very passionate about his candidate, and is very hopeful that he'll go through. If I can only pick a few words that he has said, we are concur on the issue of keeping this country together in peace. Let us, all of us Ugandans, choose to develop our country and nothing else. Good night, and God bless Uganda.
Good night.